The King of the Apes hails from Skull Island, a remote, jagged piece of rock surrounded by swathes of ocean. Many believe that Kong is the only colossal kaiju who resides on the island. However, entire species and subspecies of deadly titans exist, dispersed throughout the land. Skull Island in particular has seen a higher number of behemoth titans in comparison to the rest of the world. In this marvellous video, we will explore the deadliest Skull Island megafauna present in the MonsterVerse. From Magma Turtles to skull crawlers, how do these beasts coexist on one single island? Let's find out. Just before we go into our video, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, now let's begin. Psycho Vultures. Some monsters that come from Skull Island take to the skies. Such are the eerie Psycho Vultures. Psycho Vultures look similar to giant, depilated bats. Psycho Vultures, like bats, use thermal vision and echolocation to hunt primarily at night. The reason they are named Psycho Vultures is that they seek out and feed on toxic pufferfish, which drives them into a frenzied state of madness. In this psychotic state, they will tear apart anything that enters their domain. In this state, Psycho Vultures also kill their own kind. The scavenger birds will then feed on more trippy pufferfish. They first appeared in the comic series titled Skull Island: The Birth of King Kong, and are even seen in the graphic novel Kingdom Kong. In Skull Island: The Birth of Kong, we saw the Psycho Vultures that caused a Monarch aircraft to crash on the island. They took it down using their electric blasts, which they can shoot from their mouths. In Kingdom Kong, a flock of Psycho Vultures picked a fight with King Kong, and one even tried to gouge out his eye with its razor-sharp talons. One subspecies of the Psycho Vultures is leafwings. Leafwings are said to be a lot tamer by comparison. The crabs. We see the crabs in the animated series Skull Island. In the episode, the two protagonists, Charlie and Mike, talk about trapdoor crabs. Mike claimed that he'd only heard of trapdoor spiders. Like their namesake, trapdoor crabs bury themselves deep under the ground to make a trapdoor that would in turn capture prey. In the show, they are mainly referred to as giant crabs, which gives us an idea of their sheer size. In appearance, the trapdoor crabs are ginormous red crabs with their snapping claws and grey torso. They have two menacing orange eyes topped with two antennae, which helps them understand the sensory interface of their environment. Trapdoor crabs have traditional crab legs and sharp fangs underneath their mandibles. In the episode The Last Blank Space on the Map, as soon as Charlie and Mike touch down on Skull Island, they're attacked by trapdoor crabs discreetly hidden under the sand. A crab managed to grab Mike and attempted to pull him underneath the surface to be eaten. The pair scrambled atop a rock in the middle of swathes of infested sand. A second attack was dodged when another character named Annie began slashing at the trapdoor crabs using a harpoon. Hence, the abilities of trapdoor crabs can be summarized by their claws, burrowing, and the capacity to detect prey in close physical proximity. Mother Longlegs. We've all heard of Daddy Longlegs, but adding to the family, let's talk about the creepiest crawlies, better known as Mother Longlegs. Mother Longlegs are considered to be a super species. We first see them in the 2017 film Kong Skull Island, in which the Monarch team, led by Preston Packard, made their way through a thick bamboo forest during their expedition of 73. One of the teammates was brutally pierced through his mouth by the sharp and thin appendage of a mother's long legs. In appearance, Mother Longlegs are colossal arachnids that can reach up to 20 feet. Their legs uncannily resemble bamboo stalks, which allow them to camouflage in bamboo forests and seek out unsuspecting victims. They have skull-like faces and terrifying crimson eyes. Their name indicates that all members of their species are females. Along with their 8 spider legs, Mother Longlegs also have 2 extremities near the top of their heads. These additional limbs are tipped with pincers. In Kong Skull Island, audiences saw Queen Mother Longlegs, who was distinguished by her horned crown. Mother Longlegs spiderlings live on their parents' back and feed on microscopic parasites. To add to their mystery, the dense bamboo forests in which they live have yet to be explored. Mother Longlegs are also said to have a naturally aggressive temperament. Siren Jaw. Another super species that lived on Skull Island, Siren Jaws look similar to mossy Godzilla. The Siren Jaw lives in the swamps off the island. Due to its enormous size, when a Siren Jaw is half submerged, it looks like an island itself. In the comic miniseries The Birth of Kong, the Monarch expedition mistook the slumbering Siren Jaw for an island. The Siren Jaw then proceeded to attack the team, only to flee when it heard King Kong's echoing roars. When the team followed the sound of King Kong's roars in anticipation of seeing the King of the Apes, they stumbled upon a sorrowful sight. night. They found the corpse of the same Siren Jaw who had attacked them earlier on. Flocks of psycho vultures swarmed down to feed on the carcass. In appearance, the Siren Jaw looks like a giant crocodile covered in moss, roots, and even sometimes trees. It has rows of serrated teeth and orange eyes, much like the trapdoor crabs. Smaller creatures form symbiotic relationships with Siren Jaws, as they're seen living on the backs of these behemoths. Some may even consider this a parasitic relationship, since the smaller creatures live in the overgrown forests of a Siren Jaw's back and even feed upon the beast. The Siren Jaws consider Meer Squids as their primary prey. However, in some cases, a fully grown Meer Squid may emerge victorious after such confrontation. Death Jackals. Death Jackals made their first appearance in the comic series Skull Island: Birth of Kong. They also made a surprise cameo in the graphic novel Godzilla Aftershock. The reptilian-looking creatures are in fact mammals, but they closely resemble velociraptors in their build and stance. Death Jackals stand on two clawed feet with their taloned forearms sticking out in front of them. The beasts have wrinkly grey skin like dinosaurs and a line of jagged cartilage running along their spines. Death Jackals' blood is said to be white in colour. They have a bite force of a great white shark and are as lithe as a wild cat. The profile made by Monarch on Death Jackals claimed that they have an insatiable appetite that can only be satisfied by eating their own kind. Death Jackals are complete nightmare fuel, but some weak solace is that they primarily hunt for their own kind. The Monarch report also stated that nothing other than pure hatred runs through these creatures' veins, which means they are extremely hostile to other species. Like traditional jackals, Death Jackals hunt in packs, which makes them formidable foes. The team of Monarch researchers was attacked by the Death Jackals, and one of their members was mercilessly mauled, while another was torn apart to shreds. The rest of the team was saved by the arrival of Kong, who crushed the pack of Death Jackals to jelly. Magma Turtles. Though Magma Turtles are primarily docile, their existence itself is a threat to other life forms. As their name insinuates, Magma Turtles are giant volcanic reptiles with rocky shells on their backs. When stationary, Magma Turtles look like mighty rocks with palm trees growing from their spines. They are mostly found in close proximity to the volcano on Skull Island, named Hellspring Peak. Magma Turtles successfully lay their eggs in the very centers of volcanoes. Their embryos are then submerged in molten lava, which sets into stone shells. Magma Turtles have molten lava flowing through their veins, which makes them, of course, quite dangerous. In the informative sections of Birth of Kong, Magma Turtles are described as walking volcanoes. As the turtles grow older, they often return to the heart of Hellspring Peak to recast their rocky shells. Magma Turtles are herbivores, hence they don't hunt any prey. However, if a turtle is attacked, its blood would prove to be fatal to the assailant. Along with their hide, which acts like natural armor, Magma Turtles are also highly resistant to high temperatures. Spore Mantis. We've already established the fact that most of the fauna on Skull Island is absolutely vast in size. The giant stick bug is classified as a parasite insect superspecies. In physical appearance, a Spore Mantis deceivingly looks like a pile of fallen tree trunks, but inside the exterior lives a carnivorous beastly slug. Though Spore Mantisae aren't as bold as some of the other predatory species that roam Skull Island, in the film Skull Island we see Jack Chapman searching for his other team members. He momentarily sat down on what seemed like a fallen log, but it begins to move, and it turns out to be a Spore Mantis, on which Jack opens fire with his machine gun. The great insects usually flee from gunfire and other monstrous beings such as skull crawlers. Spore Mantises have a fascinating method of devouring and excreting prey. The prey is eaten whole, which is then enveloped in a digestive sap, which, similar to resin, preserves the prey. The mantis then excretes the encased prey whole. If Spore Mantises were to eat a member of the Monarch family, their teammate would have no difficulty identifying them, thanks to the state of preservation. Vine Stranglers. The monstrous Spore Mantises aren't the only gigantic insect species that inhabit Skull Island. Vine Stranglers function precisely as their name suggests. The insect hides in the canopy of dense trees, which proves to be the perfect camouflage. This is an excellent skill to the extent that the Monarch report claimed that it's hard to distinguish where the tree begins and where the Vine Stranglers are concealed. Their only visible body part is the long tendril-like tentacles, which could easily be mistaken for vines. The Vine Stranglers gauge the proximity of their prey via vibrations. These vibrations send a signal to their nervous system that it's time to strike. Using their vine tentacles, the Vine Stranglers then pull their prey straight into their open stomachs. Their stomachs are usually as long as the length of their bodies. The Vine Stranglers have a deadly grip, so once their unsuspecting prey is caught in their vines, it will never see the light of day again. Apart from the tentacles they use to snatch their prey, the beasts also have a crisscrossing appendage that covers their stomachs. The prey is then digested slowly while its that's still alive. Vine stranglers mostly hunt at dawn or dusk. These horrific bugs were designed for the 2017 film, but sadly they didn't make an appearance. Swamp locusts. In Skull Island, Birth of Kong, we see our worst nightmare come to life in the form of swamp locusts. These centipedes with teeth are another insect superspecies that can be found on the island. Swamp locusts are enormous amphibious insects with limbs that look like branches of a tree. They also have multiple wooden appendages sticking out from their sides. Swamp locusts have the mouth of a lamprey, rows of jagged teeth, and swamp greenish brown skin covered in horns. In the issue titled Valley of the Fallen Gods, Aaron Brooks and his team, along with Iwi tribe members, seek to escape the groups of psycho vultures and death jackals that converge to feed on the Siren Jaw's carcass. They fled too far into the swamps of Skull Island, which prompted a swamp locust to ambush them. However, the razor-toothed monster couldn't pursue them as easily on land. The swamp locusts are also superb at camouflage. They raise their log-like limbs above the surface of the water to appear as a vegetation of the swamp. Any unsuspecting prey is then caught and devoured. In the film Kong Skull Island, the swamp locusts were supposed to have a series of scenes dedicated to them, but the ideas were scrapped by the filmmakers. Meer Squid. These massive cephalopods made their first appearance in the movie Skull Island, then in the graphic novel Godzilla vs. Kong, Kingdom Kong, and lastly in the book Kong and Me. The Meer Squid is also referred to as the Red Devil, which is undoubtedly a homage to its real-life counterpart known as the Humboldt squid or the Jumbo squid, which according to size is the biggest species of squid to exist in the world. In appearance, the Meer Squid resembles an octopus. It's crimson in colour and has 8 wriggling tentacles. Meer Squids lived in the freshwater bodies of Skull Island. They mainly hunt creatures foolish enough to fly close to the surface to their home and animals that roam on the land. However, they're not one of the top predators and have to be cautious of being hunted by the likes of Kong, Siren Jaws, and even other members of their own kind. The Monarch report on Meer Squids classified them as megalopods. They are said to be a distant mutated cousin of the Great Pacific Octopus. In the film, we saw Kong enter the freshwater pool to wash his wounded hand, and then he sensed the presence of a Meer Squid, which immediately struck the giant ape and began to wrap its tentacles around him. Kong aimed straight for the main body and feasted on the Meer Squid right after. Skull crawlers. Also known as cranium reptants, they have the most bizarre appearance. True to their name, skull crawlers have skull for faces with just 2 arms and no hind legs. Therefore, they seem to crawl when moving around. While at first glance their skeletal faces might seem hollow, the bony structures are in place to protect their eyes, nose and mouth, none of which are visible. These amphibious kaiju made their first appearance in the 2017 film. They're actually featured as the main villains in this movie. Some of their violent history also presented the fact that skull crawlers were one of the main reasons why the vast number of Kong species went extinct. Skull crawlers are considered to be in the ranks of Kong as the top predators of Skull Island. The ape titans and skull crawlers have a rivalry that dates back a few millennia. In the 2021 movie Godzilla vs. Kong, we saw vehicles full of transparent skull crawler spawn being transported. Skull crawlers that gave birth aren't considered very protective of their young at all. In fact, some skull crawler mothers will eat their own eggs if starving. Skull crawlers also have unslackable appetites, and in a lot of cases, male and female skull crawlers will try to eat each other right after mating. These reptilomorphia are horribly cruel creatures that will try to eat any human they see on spot. Kong. Finally, we have the guy who runs the show, the king of the apes, and Skull Island too. The first iteration of the 8th wonder of the world appeared in 1933. Closely resembling a gorilla, King Kong is one of the most popular kaiju in MonsterVerse. King Kong is the last surviving member of his titanic ape species. Like the Titans, Godzilla and Mothra, King Kong is also classified as a protector kaiju. That means after his initial spat with humans, he took up the role of a protector of humankind, rather than a force of chaos and disorder. He even displayed an unbothered indifference towards humans without weapons. Apart from his indifference, Kong has also shown us his capacity for compassion, like the time he rescued a skier buffalo that was trapped, and he even saved Mason Weaver from drowning. The ancient Iwi tribes are said to worship Kong and view him as their savior. In the past, Kong or some of his kin probably saved them from creatures like the skull crawlers. So far, he's protected humans and the vulnerable beasts of Skull Island from various threats in the form of psycho vultures, death jackals, and even the Siren Jaw. Since the tragic demise of his parents that a young Kong was forced to watch, he vowed to keep the number of skull crawlers in check. Marvelous verdict. And here we come to the end of a list of the deadliest Skull Island megafauna to exist. Skull Island has a reasonably balanced ecosystem with an even number of apex predators and unwitting prey. Most of the monsters we discussed use the tactics of sneaky ambushes and camouflage. This may be an attempt to protect themselves from riskier predators such as Kong or the Siren Jaw. Sadly, quite a few were scrapped right after their conceptualization, but could you imagine a showdown between Godzilla and the Siren Jaw? We genuinely hope to see these monsters come to life in the upcoming MonsterVerse films. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.